Call Shane Retty.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise to the International Finance Agreements Amendment Bill, which in itself speaks to the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Mr Speaker, the purpose of this bank is to address the gap in infrastructure investment in the Asian region and to promote regional collaborations and partnerships. I'd note the Foreign Minister's described Asia as important to New Zealand's future and that Asia is driving global growth. Indeed, if we look at a 2009 report from the Asia Development Bank, it's estimated that the infrastructure financing in Asia may be as much as $8 trillion between the decade 2010 to 2020. Mr Speaker, I think it's useful just to talk briefly to the definition of Asia as it's described in this agreement, because Asia includes the United Nations classification of Asia and Oceania, which in itself encompasses North Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, parts of the Middle East, Australasia and the Pacific. And I think it's useful just to bear that breadth in mind. Mr Speaker, to the committee, officials noted three particular benefits to New Zealand's involvement in this bank. The first reason is economic, obviously noting Asia's growth is limited by its infrastructure, and if they benefit, then indirectly we benefit. Now, of course, New Zealand firms may directly compete for proposed infrastructure projects, so there may well be direct benefit also. The second point noted by officials was strategic and connectivity. And it was noted that our international relationships benefit from this agreement as well, and it supports ASEAN networks. It's already been noted that China particularly has appreciated our early relationship with the bank. The third comment was our ability to influence and shape as a founder member. Now, we were the 24th country to join negotiators, and as has been commented, the first Western developed country. And we can look and see what New Zealand's influence has been as one of the founding members across a range of domains. If we look at governance, New Zealand has supported a non-resident board of directors and adopted many of the frameworks and models from the World Bank. Appointments, our negotiators supported open, transparent, merit-based appointments. That's a good thing. Thirdly, we looked at safeguards. We were looking to ensure social and environmental safeguards, and I note that New Zealand had, quote, sustainable, unquote, added before the economic development phrase in the purpose section, therefore reading in continuity, sustainable economic development. Of course, as part of best practice other safeguards, it's noted that proposed investments, proposed projects will also be open procurement and best value for money. The fourth influence from New Zealand is in the collaboration with global and regional institutions and promoting best practice. We have some obligations under this agreement, Mr Speaker. Our obligations are to provide the agreed paid-in capital and callable capital, accept voting decisions where membership may be suspended if we don't fulfil our obligations. We're to impose no capital constraints, nominate the Reserve Bank as a depository, and our liability is limited to the shareholding. I'd like to just briefly talk about our equity contribution, which at $125 million paid up and $500 million on-call capital. We asked about the security of that equity, and what we were told was that we've already received disproportionate benefit for what's effectively a 0.6% shareholding. We're also told that there's a very small probability for the on-call funds actually being called up. We asked about security of the $125 million that we have paid, and we were told this was very secure. Secure on the basis of preferred creditor status, a favourable risk rating, and the fact that there's a high proportion of paid-up capital to called capital in this particular arrangement, which at 20% actually exceeds the World Bank. The logistics of entry into force, 10 states comprising 50% of the called-up capital, that's already been commented on as well. Thank you. I know one of our partners alluded to the progress of this agreement and the fact that China is a dominant shareholder. I'd note that it's not unusual to have a significant anchor shareholder. The World Bank, Asian Development Bank and European Bank for Reconstruction and Development also has this. Mr Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge our committee members and officials in this fine piece of work and commend this to the House.
Call the Honourable David Parker.